Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. Today is day 7 of the Hardy Creations Crafting with Purpose. It's a collaboration created by Rachel from Rach and Bella Crafts, as well as Edith from Scrapbooking with Me, and Melina, her daughter, who has a separate channel. In this collaboration, there are 2 people per day, and it runs June 1st through the 15th. And I will put the link below that allows you to go directly to their channels. We each got to select a prompt based on this huge list that Rachel had given us, and I selected Renew. Now the kit, or the kits, it's a collaboration kit. Edith and Melina made some pieces and Rachel made some pieces, and they're all lovely and they work beautifully together. It's very soft and pastel, kind of early spring colors, and they're just lovely, and it's a Christian-based theme. Now, not all of the pages have that, but that is an option, and there are lots of quotes and prompts and things, so that this could be like a Bible study journal type of a thing. It doesn't have to be used that way, but it can be. Another nice thing about this particular kit is it gives people a lot of options. One of the things I was drawn to is the sewing element, because I love making needle books, but there is a ton of stuff in there, ephemera-wise, that you can alter based on what your own personal needs are. There's art with some art supplies and materials. There's books. There's the sewing, as I said. There is some with, I'm not going to go through the entire kit, of course, because Rachel did that, I believe, in her video. But there's photography as a theme. There, again, it's just a huge variety of things, something for everybody. There's lots of florals. There's some flutterbys. Lots of options, basically, and I really think that this will appeal to a huge variety of people and give a lot of people options based on what they are into and what they want to create with. So my day 7 is, and I said my word prompt is Renew, and I'm working with Antonio Makes, whose prompt is Love. So please check out the other creators. I know that many of you follow a lot of them, but be sure and see what they've got to offer too, because I know there's going to be a gazillion great ideas. All right, so as I often do, I love to make idea books, idea journals, so that when I'm stumped or when I need just something to fit a certain theme, I have an idea book, and I have several idea books that I can go to or refer to create something. And without even looking at my idea book, when I saw this kit and I saw the available pieces, I knew exactly what I wanted to make. And it's one I've not made on video. So I thought this would be a great time and place to do it. It is going to be a page insert, and you can use it one of 2 ways, and I'll show you what I mean when we get there. But based on the concept of Renew, I love using old pieces, old things that might be discarded or otherwise not utilized perfectly in a new way. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use some vintage lace. I'm going to use some Victorian trading cards, and then this kit and it won't be exactly like what I've got here, simply because I've got different pieces, but it's based on this concept, and so I want to show you that. Renew. My original thought when I heard Renew or saw the word as an option, a prompt option, was that Psalm 51:10, the song based on that, created me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. So that's kind of where my mind went. And so I chose pieces that back that up or support it. Another nice thing about this one is it's not size dependent. So you can make this if you like to work in a little bit bigger journal or a little bit smaller journal or what have you. You can cut this down. Now I printed a couple different things front and back, because a dual-sided paper works best for this. And I honestly don't know which one I most want to use. I really like them both. And so I guess what I could do, I want one of these 2 pieces to be the front and then one to be the inside, kind of like this, basically. And then I pulled some lace that I've purchased recently at a junk show. I've got a couple different pieces here, torn. I think this one had some stains on it. And so anyway, I've got a couple different pieces of lace that I'm thinking to use as the insert. It was, again, an idea that I created for little bits of lace. So I could look at the lace on the inside and see which one I like better. Gosh, you know what? I honestly don't think these are both so beautiful. I don't think I can go wrong. So I think I'm going to use this one simply because why not? And I don't know if these are both thin pieces of lace, and of course you can use any lace you've got. This one is a little bit wider, and I feel like you can see through it a little bit better. But I really also like the color of this lace on this. So, well, I'm not 100% sure. But we'll start with the basics. Again, this will be the front or the outside or the most showing piece, and it's not. I guess this one is kind of directional-ish, but with these flowers, they're kind of random, so I don't feel like it loses anything by, turning it any which way. In this particular case, I can open it to the right or the left, whichever, and there's not a set measurement, so just eyeball it. And my suggestion would be, like you can see here, there's stain on that, so I probably wouldn't use that piece for it. Gosh, that is so pretty, but it's a little bit thicker than this one, and this one is so pretty too, and this piece is long enough, so I think I'm going to use this. Okay, I've made a decision. Now, because of the width of my lace, panel lace I believe is what it's called, because of the width of my lace, I want to make sure that my folds will cover the lace, and I'll show you what I mean here. So on this one, this piece of panel lace, I wanted to make sure that the panel lace was wide enough to go under the pocket on the right and on the little fold over tuck spot on the left. Just because when I sew it down, again, I don't know if I said it in this take or the previous take, I intend to sew mine. You don't have to sew it. You can just use Fabri-Tac or whatever glue you like to put fabric down, but I like to sew it, and so that's what I will absolutely do. So, and you can open it to the right or the left. In this particular case, I wanted something else on the front, and I wanted this particular opening on the back, but you can flip it around and do it the other way. And in fact, just for the sake of this particular project, I will. So on this one, it opened to the back of the journal, and the back side of it, as it were, is on the front. So I'll flip it around the other way. So this closure, the narrower closure, basically, I will use my scoreboard just for the sake of ease, but you don't have to have a scoreboard for this. And I'm thinking, the width here this is a little tiny tuck spot, a side tuck spot, so it doesn't have to be super wide. On this one, you can see I just folded it over a little bit to make a small tuck spot, right? So that's what I'm going to do here. I think maybe I'll call it 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just lining it up and going to make a 3/4. Now remember, this inside won't show. If it was showing, I would probably go on the paper seam, the visual seam. But for this case, it's not going to show, so I'm just going to score it. And let's hope I did that straight. The glare on this glass mat that I have is problematic sometimes, so I put a linen cloth down on here just to make it so that it doesn't glare so much. And I did try to pre-ink things so that you don't have to watch that. All right, so this is going to be my tuck, right? This is going to be my tuck, and now I have to fold it over again, right? So I've got a tuck, and then I'm going to flip. So now I need to make another score mark, and I think maybe not too deep, but maybe I'll do it right around here. And again, you can see I'm just eyeballing it, and the scoreboard's just a little shy lengthwise, but it still works. So I'm going to score it again, and I'm going to fold it. Make sure I fold it straight. Am I even remotely in frame? Sorry, I haven't been peeking up at the camera to make sure I'm in frame. And I'm going to score that right here. Okay, now, again, you can see here, I'm going to make one more fold, and I want to make sure that the double fold I just created will cover at least a little bit of the last fold, the third fold. So I'm going to be mindful of that when I am folding over here. So I'm not even scoring this, I'm just eyeballing it because I want it to cover. But this is the other piece I have to keep in mind. You can see here, if I do this, this panel isn't wide enough for this spot. So if I go with my instinct and I was wanting to cover the whole thing, this panel isn't going to cover the whole thing. So that means I would either have an additional tuck spot here, or you can see the whole panel covers there, or I would have to make this fold a little bit deeper, and I can do that too. So I could, if I want to do that, I can put this right here, but you know what, that's really pretty. I hate to cover it. See, I don't really want to cover it because it's so pretty. And that is part of the problem with working with panel lace. So in that case, maybe I should go with something a little bit wider so that it does cover the whole thing, and so I'm not so tempted, because you can see the ends here aren't finished. This is just a cut-off strip. So that kind of feeds my decision. I think I will go with this piece because with the folds I currently have, the panel fits inside. All right. My next step, because I'm going to sew, I've got everything creased. Because I'm going to sew, I'm going to pull my machine over and do that. Now, a lot of times I'll sew things off, but I wanted you to see just the change that it makes when it's sewing. Somebody had a great tip the other day about sliding, but I keep my sewing machine on an arm. Let's see, can you see it where you are? I keep my machine on an arm off to the side, so there we go. Sorry, I'm fussing with it now. So that it's always at hand. I don't have to take it on and off my desk. And my desk, because of its shape, well, I just kind of have to do it that way. So what I'm going to do now is I am sewing just the edges of these pages, because I'm going to sew all the way around and sew the lace in place. I want to sew just these edges so that it's got the same finish. So I'm just going to sew the inside right and the inside left flap. I'm not going to back stitch because I don't need to. It'll be sewn down again. And I've got it. I don't ever let my sewing machine speed go too fast because then it'll kind of get away from me. And there we go. Okay, so I've sewn this edge. And I'll do the same thing with the other side. Oops, well, do that, but that's okay. It's not going to show so much. It got caught up on something on the side of my desk, so the stitching isn't perfectly straight. But you know what? It's not a solid paper, and you can see there. Oops, but it's not going to show, or at least it's not going to show enough to bug me. All right, I'll move this just a bit while I put these pieces in place. All right, checking here, and making sure that it folds. Yep, that's good. So now I'm going to give this a hard fold down. I did a soft fold before, but I'm going to do a hard fold now. And I'm going to push down, and then I'll again use my bone folder. And I checked to make sure that the lace panel I'm going to use will fit on the inside here, and it does. And so I decided, let's see, we were going to do it on the front rather than the back. Okay. All right, so it will be oriented this way. Now, personal preference, I use glue stick to put down the panel lace. I am going to sew it in place when it's all said and done, but to put the lace down, I use glue stick to hold it in place. I'm not a huge fan of Fabri-Tac. It's not my thing, but I know a lot of people love it and have great luck with it. All right, when I've got this, you can see that it needs to be pressed a little bit. If you're new to my channel, this is one of the things I do. I bought a hair iron at a yard sale. This one was 75 cents a long time ago. And I use that to quote unquote iron when I'm working with sari silk or little lace bits like this, and it needs to be flat. Some don't, but some do. And let's see. And it's got an adjustable heat setting, so I can make it hotter if I need to. And I just kind of do this and give it a quick press so that it's mostly straight. I have a metal garbage can, so I put it on the edge of the garbage can so that it's not a fire hazard. All right. And I need to line that up, and I will put my glue stick down. And generally, I let the glue stick dry. Let's see. I let the glue stick dry before I sew with my machine so that I don't gum up my machine. I've not gummed it up yet, but I'd really prefer to avoid that. But once the glue stick dries, the lace or fabric or whatever you're working with goes right through the machine, no problem. Okay, I don't know that there are any holes in these. It should be okay, and I can move my glue paper out. Okay. And I want to make sure it comes over in here so that it doesn't get caught up. I want to make sure I pull it far enough this way. And then I'm going to press it out and make sure it goes far enough that way. And then I'll snip off the excess lace and yeah, okay, see, that works really well. Isn't that pretty? And I'll save that, of course. Now, generally, until I sew it in place, I don't cut it all off. I'm just going to cut it close. I'll trim it down later. But I also want to make sure that it's not too bulky, and I want to be able to see the line underneath. So I will save those and put them in my scrap bin. All right. Okay, what am I forgetting? So this is going to be the front. I will ink it afterwards because I can ink this at any point. I am going to sew this down, right? And I'm going to sew this down. So I'll sew along the top and along the bottom. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sew it along the top and the bottom. And that's my next step. So I'm going to put that aside just for a second to make sure that the glue is well and truly dry so that I don't gum up my machine. And while that's drying, I will ink the edges. I'm using walnut stain for this one. I'll ink these outside edges. I didn't know where the folds were going to be, so I didn't ink that in advance. I also have to be careful moving this because the glue stick is not strong enough to hold that lace in place permanently. It's holding it in place for the sake of me sewing it, but if I maneuver this too much or manipulate it too much, the lace will pop up. Gosh, that's pretty. I love old lace. It's my kryptonite. It's my absolute weakness, those little bits of old lace. Okay, and so now I'm going to go along the top and along the bottom and sew that in. And I am going to also, just to remind myself that I don't want to open it and I want to make sure it doesn't open, I'm grabbing a couple of quilt clips. Binder clips will work, paper clips will work, whatever you've got. But I'm grabbing a couple quilt clips to make sure that I hold these closed and in place so they don't move while I'm sewing them. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay. I'm going to hold this down. I'm not going to be sewing there, and this isn't in the way of the sewing machine arm. And I'm going to hold that there. And that will just make sure that I sew them correctly and that they're held in place while I'm sewing. Okay? And you can decide which you want to be the top or the bottom or the front or the back, which have you. And it is definitely dry. It's not tacky any longer, so I don't have to worry about my machine. And is my machine, yeah, it's close enough to in frame. Now I will back stitch here simply because of the ends of the threads, and it just seems to give it a nice finished look. So now I'm sewing the top and the bottom with the flaps closed. That will hold my lace in place, and it will give me a finished look on my... Do I have a left thread in there? Good. I didn't think I needed to change the bobbin. Okay, so there's the top or the bottom, whichever, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. You can see it's starting to come a little bit loose here because, again, it's not designed to hold it permanently. It just holds it in place temporarily. If I needed to do it permanently, I would absolutely use like Fabri-Tac or some other fabric-based glue. Actually, when I need glue for fabric, I do use a Fabri-Tac occasionally, but not very often. So I think we're done with the machine, so I'll put that away. When I do need fabric glue, I use Tim Holtz matte medium, collage medium. It takes a while to dry. So it's not something, if I'm going to need to have something glued quickly, it's probably not going to be what I choose. But if I'm going to let it dry overnight or something, or let it sit for a while, this is a great glue for fabric, I find. It dries clear and it's strong. It's a really strong adhesive. Okay, so now I've got it sewn in. This lace isn't going to go anywhere now. And I've got the base for my folio. And you know, gosh, isn't it kind of pretty with the lace sticking out? Oh, it's really kind of pretty with that. I was thinking I would go in and trim it, but maybe I'll just make some little wonky cuts and leave it. Well, you know what? We don't have to decide now because it's not, the rest of the project isn't dependent on that. I just really think it's kind of pretty sticking over like that. So, I mean, you could trim it. This would be a great time to go in and trim it, or you could just leave it, either way. So, okay, so there's that, there's that. All right, so this is the base, and I can do either one as the front or the back because this is not text dependent or directionally dependent. So I can make the opening work to the front or the back. And because the other one was opening to the back, we'll make this one open to the front. Okay, and inked this side, inked this side. All right, we're all inked up. Now I've got my folio. Now in the kit, there are lots and lots of journaling cards. There's tags, there's journaling cards, there's all kinds of beautiful things that you could tuck in. You know, you could cut these out and tuck them in right now. Because I was really focused on Renew, I'm going to use the Victorian trading cards. And I found these at a local antique store down the road in Chehalis, and they're really, really pretty. And again, I don't normally work with these palettes, but let's see, we were going to, what did I say we were going to do? We're going to do it like this, so it opens, and this would be the back. Yeah, that's what we were going to do. Okay, so these would be my tuck pieces, right? And I won't use all of them. Obviously, the colors aren't all correct, but I found some really cool ones. Some of them are blank on the back. Some of them have words on the back, but they are Victorian trading cards. And I've got some that I know will work with this. Now, I've also got, you know, I've got two sides to tuck things. So like maybe I'll tuck a notepad in one side or a journaling card in one side and then some of these Victorian trading cards in the other. Gosh, that's really pretty. It matches nicely. But so I'm going to just pick some. See, here you go. I selected thread because I'll definitely use this one because one of the images in Rachel's kit is thread. So I'll absolutely use that card. That would make sense. And the colors in this one are absolutely fabulous, even though the orientation is different, but that's okay too. Let's see. Oh, those little cuties, they look like they're friends. Maybe I'll use these too because the orientation is good. And then the colors with the pink roses, okay, maybe that makes more sense. And maybe let's see what else we've got. I picked this one because my granddaughter is Breck. Gosh, she's going to be 4 soon. And she's kind of a cutie too. She's a different look. Maybe I'll put 3 in. Oh, but this one's really pretty too. And she is of a similar era. And they all have something different. Industrial insurance. Maybe I'll use... No, I'm going to use this one. Okay, so those are the ones I'm going to use in this little folio. And yeah, they'll fit nicely. I'll put the flowers because they all have the flowers. And then the sewing. And you know what? Maybe I'll put this over here. Does that fit? Or is this one a little more narrow? Yeah, this one's a little more narrow. So I'll put those girls there. And I'll put her like this. And then I'll tuck. I don't want to cover her sweet face though. And then I will put a little notepad behind, and you know, or I could just play with it and like this, or I'm not 100% sure. And you know, it doesn't really matter, honestly, because we can just tuck them on in and decide later. I just hate to cover her sweet face, so I'm not going to. Okay, so I've got that on this side, and then I'll put a notepad on this side, and then we've got a closure. We'll put the closure on. And what I did for the last one with the closure is I just took a bit of lace. This one's an angled piece, but this is just a leftover bit. So let's trim that down a bit. And now this is not the same lace, you can see. In fact, I've got a couple different kinds of lace here. Just, I grabbed some different spools of the vintage lace that I've got. And do I like that one better? I guess it doesn't really matter. You know what? I'm going to use with this one, and I'll save that scrap. I've got this really pretty bit of lace, and I do need the machine, so I'm not going to pull it back over here. But you can see what I'm doing here is I'm just rolling this over, and now I'm going to sew all the way around it to make my hinge. I'm going to hold this closed in place while I sew the other side, and I'm not going to pull my machine around. So here, I'll just put these out so that you can enjoy them while I'm sewing that, just for the sake of speed. And I'm going to sew all the way around it just to make it a little bit thicker. And I've got that end down, so now I can take off those clips that were holding it together. And I'll sew all the way around. And the beauty of this is you don't have to sew it perfectly because the stitches aren't going to show in all that lace. And last. Okay. I just did that to make it a little bit thicker. And you can see it's not perfect, and if I need to trim something I can, but I just sewed all the way around to make my hinge. I'll put these cuties back in. Okay, now my hinge. And this is maybe a little long, but it's just so stinking pretty that I'm going to do it anyway. So what I'll do is I'll use Fabri-Tac or Collage Medium right here to hold this piece down, right? I could have sewn it, and you know what? If you were wanting to sew it, I could have sewn it in place before I sewed this closed. I don't know, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but I can glue it in place and it won't show because of the thickness. And then on the front, what I'll do is I will use some double-sided Velcro. And I'll use a larger square of Velcro, and I do the same thing. Here's just some, these are ultra thin Velcro. I get it at Walmart and or Amazon. They're sticky back Velcro, but I find that I don't trust the adhesion as much as I maybe should. So I put a little dot of glue on each one. And does it matter? There was a really pretty lace edge, so I think I want that pretty lace edge. And I'm going to lay this here and lay that there. I could put Velcro on this side too, and then you could take the entire closure off. But what I'll do when it all is said and done, I will put the Distress Collage Medium down, I will take my clamp and I will hold it in place until it's good and dry. And that will be the closure. Now, the last piece here is I want to decorate this. I forgot to tell you something. Okay, so this is going to be an insert in the journal. If I was going to do this and make it part of my signature, what I would do is not close off the top and the bottom here. I want this as an insert, but if I wanted it to be a part of my signature prior to sewing, I would not sew this piece so that I could open this back up, right? And then when I put it in my signature, I would sew this into my signature. I would lay it into my signature. And once it was sewn into my journal, then I would close it up and either glue or sew this down. And that way the signature seam would be underneath this panel. It would be underneath this fold. You would never see it. I could do it now if I were doing, you know, a 5-hole pamphlet stitch and poke the holes in the edge, but it would have been way easier to do prior to sewing it. And I should have shown you that before I sewed it closed. So my apologies for that. Though it still works. But this particular one is going to be an insert because I will probably send this to someone. Okay, and you know, I could easily also put some of these, I cut out some of the pieces, and I could tuck, I've got some of these little tags. I could put some tags in here too. I could do a waterfall of tags to line up here for journaling spaces. You know, this, put it in right here is journaling spaces, and you can take out all the tags. In fact, I've got some really cool transparency, and that would have worked well for the same thing, to make pockets there. So you have lots of choices and options as far as ways you want to decorate it. Because this is going to be an insert into a journal, I don't want it too thick, but I could easily stack these here and create additional writing spots. What I did with these is I took, I have it here somewhere. Okay, so I fussy cut some pieces out of this, and I took the scraps like this. I fussy cut, took the scraps and then punched double circle punches to make the tag toppers. So that's what these are. So before I put these in, I could add the tag toppers and then put a little bit of lace and or sari silk or string or something like that as the tops of those. So could do that. Probably would do that. So just a thought and just an option as another way if you want a little bit more pocket or a little bit more decoration there. And again, I'll put a note, just a simple notepad. In fact, do I even have any pieces? I don't have any that are ready to go. I always keep a lot of notepads. Just take coffee dyed paper, sew it along the top, or staple it along the top, just a simple little notepad, and tuck it right in that pocket. I don't want to make this take forever, so. And then glue that down and let it dry. Now on the other side, what I think I'll do is I'll use some of these ephemera bits that I've got cut out and ready to go. Let's see, I've got a couple ideas with these. I hadn't played with them all the way, but it'll be the decoration on the front that I can also use as a tuck spot. So let's say I were wanting to make, you know, use a couple of these as tags. Don't know that I'd use pink because there's so much pink there already, but maybe a couple of these green ones, or oh, this is one that's a double-sided one, you know, for a journaling spot. The little roses on top. Let's see, what else have we got here? Oh, that's really pretty. Oh, that one coordinates well. Maybe I would do something like the 3 different pink patterns or something, and I'll put and maybe something like that. So tags that you can journal on tucked in, and we'll play with that in a minute. Okay, the other thought I had was, this is a fussy cut from the other side of this. It was part of the whole page, but I just cut it out. And the reason I cut it out is because I thought it would be kind of cool to carry on the old renew element and take a piece of this really thin netting type lace and put that there to give some dimension to this spool. So that's my thought process. I'm just going to cut a little bit of that off. Again, this was something I found at not an antique show, a junk show, like the Farm Chicks show. I've got a whole bunch of cool treasures from that. Country Chicks show, the Great Junk Hunt. It's from one of those. All right, so I've got this bit of netting, and then I'm going to wrap it here. See, it was the right width, and I just think it adds some really cool dimension. And what I'm going to do now is I will glue it, but then I will also tape it just to make sure it's flat and it stays. And there we go. Put a little bit of glue down here. Lay this. And art glitter glue holds this too, because you can see it's really thin and fine. And look, isn't that kind of cool? I like it. I just thought it would look neat, so I thought I'd give it a try. Didn't work. Well, we wouldn't. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. All right, I've got that, and I need to trim it. It's just a little bit long. Okay, And to make sure that it doesn't lift when I don't want it to, I use packing tape quite a bit. I really love the Gorilla packing tape. I've had great luck with it. And I'm going to use that and hold it down on the back. So it will, see, isn't that kind of fun? Just adds, I don't know how well you can see that, but it just adds another layer. And this was a book page that had flowers and such behind it. And I thought maybe I could incorporate these two somehow together. I'm honestly not 100% sure, but I kind of like that. And then one of the verse pages, this storm will pass in his time. It's a great reminder for me because there's been quite a few challenges for the last, since the beginning of 2024, and it's a great reminder for me. And because there's so much floral in here, I thought it might be kind of fun to add an additional dimensional element, and I pulled out some of my dried flowers. And I thought maybe I could put the dried flower down and then sew around it. And I grabbed a couple different dried flowers. That one's kind of pretty. This is Status that I used Tim Holtz sprays. Oh, I like that. That's really pretty. Okay, I'm going to go with that one. And well, there's another one too with a little bit more green. And this was just a weed that I pulled up and dried. But nope, I really do like this one. So what I'm going to do here is put this Status, I'm just going to hold it in place, and I don't mind if it goes off a little bit, that's okay. Actually, maybe I'll put that there, and this here. Let's see. Something like that. Okay. Now I've got some of this faux vintage cellophane tape, and I really like using little itty bitty bits of this just to hold it down, tie it down before I sew on the transparency or window film. So I'll push those guys together and I'll put that right there. Okay, now I'm going to take, this is just a leftover sheet of packaging or backing, and I'm going to cut around this and sew that into place so that those little flower pieces, the dried flower pieces, don't wander away. Okay, so I guess I will have to bring my sewing machine back. I forgot that I was going to do this. And again, I hadn't planned it completely. I just had an idea of what I wanted to do. And did I just hit my machine? So sorry if I moved the camera there. Okay, I'm going to sew around this. Now, when I cut window film, I almost always cut it a little bit bigger so that if it wiggles a little bit when I'm sewing, it doesn't come up too short. I'd rather trim it off at the end. So I am going to sew around that. And I know some people say they've had a challenge sewing around it. I slow my machine stitch down a little bit, so I go a little slower, but I haven't had a problem with it going through. It's not thick and it holds nice and tight. So I'm just going to sew all the way around that. And again, it's just to add a little bit of, do you have to do this? No, you can certainly use one of the fussy cut images or one of the mini florals that they offer. This is just, you know, just a little bit extra. Just because I really like the flowers and I want a pretty front. Okay. And just a tip if you're new to my channel, I generally keep a pair of small scissors just for threads. Nothing else gets cut with them ever. And they last a long time that way. And they're nice and sharp because threads can be a challenge to cut. So you can see I've got extra all the way around. It's held in place. Those little flower buds aren't going anywhere. And now I can trim the excess off. I had inked this in advance. If you're not an inker, then that wouldn't be a step that you would need to do. But I had inked this. And this pink bit is just one of the pieces on the ephemera, one of the ephemera page options. Okay, so here's kind of what I'm thinking. ish. I'm going to put those there. I wasn't 100% sure. These are also a page of circles that you could, layer kind of a thing. And this one is a 2 1/4 inch circle. This one's a 2 inch, and this is a 1 3/4 inch. So if you're new to the hobby and you're wondering, what is something valuable or a wise to spend your crafting funds on, I highly encourage people to get a variety of circle punches. Okay, so I kind of like that together. I like the thread on the book, and it ties in with the Victorian card we've got. And then I thought maybe, see, I think I originally had it back, and then I put this here and this here. See, kind of like that. So I'm going to glue this piece down and this piece on top of it. And you know what? Maybe I'll do it something like that. Or do I want this here and this over here? But then you lose the top of the book. So you can just, just play with it until you've got it in a way that you like. I think I liked it best this way. And then I'll glue that down. Okay, I'm going to make a decision. I'm making an executive decision. Gluing this down. But then I can't use this as a tuck. Well, sugar. I guess I'm not going to use that as a tuck. And that's okay. I'm going to put that down there. I really like the netting on that. That's super pretty. And I'm going to put a little bit more glue right there because I don't want that to lift. But I could maybe tuck. I really hate to cover that though. You know what? We're just not going to make these into a tuck. That's okay. They don't have to be. Not everything. Maybe I could just have the front of this be for decoration. And that's not a bad thing either. I can tuck those inside and make the pocket that way. Or put the tags in the pocket that way. Are the tags even in frame? I don't even know. Okay. Yeah, those are just too pretty to cover up. I really like them. So I'm not going to cover them up. All right. I'm going to glue this piece down. Imagine making something not functional, just pretty. Well, there's a time and place for that too. And I'll move that down a bit. And then, I think this is how I had it. I really liked it that way. Okay, so I'm going to glue this one down. And this is just art glitter glue. You can use Barely There or, Barely Art or Reptile or, whatever your preference is. Most glues work. And I'll give that a little bit of time to dry. And I think I'm going to use mounting foam on this. I think I want it to stand up just a little bit. And this is just 3M mounting foam. It's a really thin profile. But I think I want that to stand up just a bit. So I'm going to cut a strip of that off and put it here on the back of that quote. Yeah, I think I want it to just stand up just a smidge. I do like that. All right, and I could put, you know what? I have all this pretty lace and scrap bits of lace. Maybe this needs a scrap of lace underneath it. I don't know that for sure, but let's just look and see. Oh, that's pretty. This one's a little bit thicker here because of the rolled edge, so I'll just trim it off. I don't want it too straight though, so maybe we'll do that. Yeah. Okay, maybe we'll do this instead. And I'll put that over the corner like this and glue it down, and then I'll put that. Yep, that's what I like. Okay. All right, and put that down, and that will stay in place. This is just a small, thin bit of lace, so it's not going anywhere. I'll put that down there. Again, you could use your fabric glue if you chose to, but I like the tie-in of the lace edges, the lace and the lace. And I will peel this backing off and put this quote right here. All right, and I will call this done. You know, I'm actually okay with it not being, I will absolutely use these, and again, I will put these little bits on top. They're double-sided, and and they've been inked, so I will put them inside. Maybe I'll make a little sleeve. You know what I could do is I could make a little plastic sleeve and then just tuck all of these, a bunch of these in the little plastic sleeve rather than using a notepad. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I'm just going to make a little plastic sleeve, or, you know, maybe I don't even need to do that. I could use just a small paper clip because these are thin enough to fit. I could layer these in, and maybe I'll put one over here, something like that. Just lay them in, and then maybe another quote right here, and that would be a tuck. Yeah, that's, I think, what I'll do. And that part, it's not really part of the make, quote unquote, but that's an option that you could easily use. I could use these as a pocket or a tuck spot, right? So this right here, and then that would be, yeah, there you go. I could, you know what, let's do it. Why not? Do I like that one? I do. I'm going to glue it just along the bottom. Executive decision. Do that right. This is like a piece of a word or a partial word, and I don't really want that right there because it'll show. So let's see what else I know I've got some of those quotes. I'm just digging through the papers that I had. Well, heckity heck, what did I do with it? It's got to be in here somewhere. I should have cut out a few more, but I didn't think I was going to go in that direction. Or I could. There's no yellow on there, but that yellow's really pretty. And there's no yellow on there. Okay, so I'm just going to use these two. Oh, I should have used the one on the other side. Well, that's okay. I am going to fussy cut these. And this is kind of, I don't know, maybe you're thinking, Corey, enough already. But this is kind of how I do it when I create. I play with it and think, oh, it needs this or it doesn't need that. Or I can change this a little bit. And that's the beauty of a kit like this. There's so many options and so much that you can do to really personalize it and make it your own. I normally fussy cut with a magnifying glass, but this is a simple enough line that I don't really have to do that. And I'm just going to give a little bit, I ink the edges because I don't like the white showing. Plus, I just feel like it finishes it. Oh, cute, cute, cute. And there's no reason on earth, because this is going to be an insert. It's this. If this were going to be sewn into my signature, then I obviously wouldn't want this bit hanging off. But this is going to be a tuck-in, so it can hang off to its little heart's desire. And I'm only going to put the glue right here so that I can still use that as a tuck, which was my original intention. And I want it to hang out just a smidge. And somewhere on here, I have those extra words. Where did I put them? I could fussy cut something else, or I could, here we go, words. I could fussy cut another image, like maybe one of these really pretty flowers or the camera or something. Like this one would be really pretty. I'm not going to fussy cut it, but I'm just saying, if you didn't want another word or a quote, you could fussy cut this camera and stick it right on front. So there's another option. Just because we've got the pictures of the Victorian trading cards in there, and fussy cut that out and lay that right on top. That would be really pretty. But I believe I might even go with joyful, simply because these girls are joyful. So maybe there's lots of options. Thankful, willing, truthful, faithful. I think I'm going to go with joyful. And do I like that color? Sure, that'll work. That'll work really well. So cut that word out and put it in. And again, I could add a little bit more lace if I chose to. Let's see if I've got something that's closest to the right size. Just trimming around there, and I think I'm going to trim it down just a smidge. And you can see this is not perfectly straight. There's enough ink on there to take off, on my blending tool, to take off that white edge. So I'll just put a little bit of ink. Oh, look how cool that is. That's really cute. And let's see, where did I toss that other little bit of lace that I had? Maybe we'll like it, maybe we won't. Oh, you know what? Maybe I just, that little itty bitty bit and a tiny button. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Okay. I'm going to glue that in. Where did I make that little itty bitty bit go? Okay, there it is. Glue that on. I'll glue this down. And then I've got some tiny pearl, mother of pearl buttons, I guess. And I will sew that and put it and glue that right on top there. Yeah, that'll be pretty. And then I'll finish off these tags, right? And put a couple of the tags, maybe 3. Since there's 2 spools, maybe I'll do 3 tags. Okay. I didn't want to make this too long, and I don't actually have any idea how long I've made it so far. But, and then if I'm going to put these tags here, then I should put a little mini notepad in there. And I've got some in my stash. Like I said, I build those when I have extra pages, so I'm not going to do anything. Let's see, that one's not right, that one's not right. I'm not going to do a little booklet. Maybe these 2 and that. Okay, so we'll glue on that. Glue on this. And I'll glue on this. I had just done a couple of them to have on hand so that I didn't have to do it while I was on camera. And all these little bits can go away. Okay. And again, if you'd chosen to, you could even actually still do the fussy kit camera if you wanted to. But you know, or one of the other pieces. There's plenty to choose from. So once these are glued on, I'll use my hole punch. Now I can't see those so great, so hopefully they're going to be centered, but when I sew a little bit of lace on there, it's not going to show. And I didn't center that one very greatly, but that's all right, doesn't matter so much. Okay, and I can use the same lace, I can use different lace, I can use sari silk, I can use anything. I generally tend, when I use these, I tend to sew it on rather than tie it on because it's not as bulky. So I'll probably put 3 different kinds of lace, maybe 2 different kinds of lace and a little bit of sari silk, you know, so they're all a little bit different, and I'll have it peek out like that. Oh, isn't that pretty? You know what? I'm a dingbat, because look, this is my closure, and if I had glued this down, it would be glued down right here, and there goes my tuck. So I'm really glad I didn't, and I did my Velcro closure right here, otherwise I could move it up. But then if I move it up, then I don't have my tuck spot, and I really like that little tuck spot peeking out. All right, see, this is why you have everything planned out in advance, so you don't do something silly like this. And I put glue on there, so I absolutely don't want to peel that up. Maybe I just use 2. And you know what? I'm going to use this one simply because that's the background in there. And maybe I use this one. Okay, I like those 2, and I really like the way that looks. So how can I work around this? You know what? That's the beauty of it. There is always some kind of a workaround. Always. So maybe I just don't get to use that as a tuck. Maybe it's just a decoration, and it goes up to the top. Or I could take this off. It'll definitely tear it. Even if I use undo, it'll tear it because I glued this on. But I'm trying to peel it up without tearing it too much. And see, if I had glued that down initially, I would have known, and I would have never thought to put that decoration there. Okay, sorry, this is tedious. I apologize, and I don't have editing skills, so I can't edit this bit out. But people have often said that they like seeing how, oh, holy smokes, I got it. Ha, and I didn't tear it. All right, so there's still a little bit of gummy on there. Okay, that was lucky. This is a rubber cement square, and it will come in peel up the little bit of leftover glue. Oh man, I got lucky there. All right, that worked out really well. Okay, now what I'll do is maybe put the closure at the very top, or I'll use a different kind of closure altogether. I could, you know, I think I have a paper clip. I think I have a paper clip that I covered. Maybe I do. I have a lace covered paper clip somewhere. I don't know where I put it, but I could use any old standard paper clip, right? Oh, here we go. Lace covered paper clip. See, this is I just wrapped a piece of lace around a paper clip, and I could do it that way, or I could, and I've got a button on each side, and it buckles, which is one of the reasons I haven't done a video on it, because I've got to figure out a way to make it not buckle. I guess I could cover paper. Oh, that's kind of cool, right? Why not? Okay, that is just a lace covered paper clip, and since we're using vintage lace, that works really well on that side. I'm happy with that. It works really well on this side, and I can still put my tags in my tuck spot. Let's see, move that to the side. I can still put my tags in right here. I don't know why that one goes down so much more. You know what? This is just a little too long then. I'll just trim that down a bit. That's the nice thing about a tag. You can change the size if you need to. All right, so for those of you who don't like working through problems and seeing how they work through, my deepest apologies. But for those of you who like that and like seeing that, well, I hope it was helpful. And then I'll put the little trim on the top, and I will close it off like that. Oh, how fun. Okay, when plan A doesn't work, you go with plan B, right? And that is our little folio. Thank you very much for sticking with me. Please do check out the other people. When it's all completed, I'll have the little notepad in here, and I'll have those little bits of lace on there, but that's not something that needs too much explanation. Thank you again, Rachel and Melina and Edith, for allowing me to join the fun and for providing inspiration for us all. Take care, ladies, gentlemen, and happy creating.